Awesome. Alrighty. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our last day of the conference. My name is Manjri Agarwal, and I'm a career advisor. And today's session will be presented by Denise. So Denise, go ahead and take it away.
Awesome. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the final day of the Financial Literacy Conference. Today, we're talking about negotiating the job offer. So what we're going to be doing today is going over a couple of different things about negotiation. And one of the reasons why I like this word cloud is because this basically exemplifies what you want to make sure that you're doing when you're negotiating. So you need to think about it as a partnership. You want to think about it's a teamwork deal. It's, talking, it's having a conversation. You're discussing things. It's not a you versus them, or, I have to do this or I have to do that. It's going to be a team conversation. Obviously, you're going to be asking for certain things and they're going to be saying yes or no to those things. So this is going to hopefully help you be able to learn how to articulate what's happening here. So the learning objectives that we're going to cover are basically how do you answer typical salary questions, how you defer when they ask you about salary, identifying what you can negotiate, what you can't, prepping for your negotiation, and then some strategies towards the end. And I think that this is very interesting that I pulled this up from something that I saw on the website. So this was a job for someone that has a master's degree, but they only wanted to pay you $15 an hour. So that would definitely be something that you would want to try to negotiate. Okay. So now let's talk a little bit about what is
Oh no, we lost you. You're not frozen, but I can't hear you. I'm not sure if it's just me. So if anyone else is having trouble hearing Denise, put it in the chat. Okay. No. What happened? Do you think it's your headphones? She'll be back. So sorry, everybody.
me now?
Yes.
Okay, so we're back. All right, so let me go back and we'll share the screen again. Hold please. All right, so let's go to this slide. Oh, we're going to go back to the beginning, apparently. So we're talking about the job offer today and how to negotiate that. So we're looking at different types of learning objectives, and I want to show you what is negotiable here. So when you're talking about things that are negotiable, you can ask for basically anything. You can ask for title changes, you can ask for salary, you can work for your hours, maybe the opportunities or responsibilities you'd like to change a little bit. If there is a signing bonus or a relocation bonus, you can ask about that and negotiate that. You can also talk about performance-based bonuses if that's something that is going to be on the table for you. We know that many candidates are afraid to negotiate because they're afraid that they will get their job offer pulled, or they won't get the job, or you'll end up with a lower salary. And to be honest, I've been in the Career Center at USC for 19 years, and I have never heard of a student that came to us that said, hey, I got my offer pulled because I tried to negotiate. So the thing is that you have to negotiate in the most positive way when you're talking to employers about salary. So that's why we're going to talk about that. But you need to make sure that you're negotiating. Even if it's an internship, all you need to ask for is movement in the salary. Okay? All right. So these are some of the typical salary questions that you might get. We get these in the Career Center all the time. What do I put on my application for salary? Can the employer ask me about salary history? When do we discuss it? What should I say about salary, and where can I get it? So the reality is that when you are applying for a job, if you can put negotiable within your salary expectations, that's what you want to do. You always want to say negotiable so they know that you're open to that. Can the employer ask you about your salary history? As of 2018, they cannot. So they are no longer able to ask you about salary history. They may ask you what your expectation is again, so that's what you would have to answer. Salary is usually discussed around the second interview, but they will possibly ask you that in the first interview. What are you thinking about salary, or what's your salary range? So you need to make sure that you are talking about things that are going to help you with that. So let me get into this next slide. So these are some defers that you can try to utilize when you answer these questions about what are my expectations. So typically, let's talk about the job requirements so I can get a better sense of what you need. Everything is negotiable depending on the responsibilities, or I'm happy to discuss salary when you've established that I'm the right candidate. And according to the research I've done, I'm looking at a range between 88,000 and 102,000. So you always want to make sure that you give them a range. You don't want to just blurt out 45,000. All right, because if the hiring manager has a hiring budget of up to 60,000 and you say 45, they're going to say, you know what, we can do that. And they're going to be very happy about that. So you want to make sure that you are asking for what you need. Okay. All right, so moving on, what you want to do before negotiating is basically look and do a little bit more research on the industry and the organization. How is the company doing? What are they doing? What's happening in the geographical region that they're located in? Sometimes if there's a problem in that area, or maybe if they've just laid off a lot of people, that may not be to your advantage in terms of negotiating a higher salary. Obviously, you're going to reread your job descriptions and look at the offer letter again, making sure that you understand what the basics are that are in that. And then if you do have questions, you can always ask questions about that area. So you want to look at obviously a lot of different websites for similar job positions, see if they're offering, other companies are offering that job and what they're paying that salary for. And then obviously what you want to do is you want to email that recruiter to see if they have time to do a negotiation. One of the things that you want to look at is you never want to cold call a recruiter to talk about money or salary, because if that recruiters happen to be having a bad day or something like that, or if they're really, really busy, you're going to get a no automatically. So what you want to do is you want to call them and arrange, thank them for the offer, tell them that you have a couple of questions. Could they arrange a time to talk? You send that email. Could you arrange a time to talk so we can answer these questions, so that they're ready and they're open to any types of ideas that you might have. Now, Laura Lee popped a question in the chat about the range, looking the 88 to 102,000, looking like a big range. You want to give a large range. Typically, my ranges that I give, and I tell students to give, are about a $9,000 range. This is something that you just need to make sure that you're looking at based upon your research that you're doing. Obviously, you're not going to go, I want 80 to 100,000, way too big. Okay, way too big. However, the employer will look at that, and then obviously they're going to try to pull to the lower range, where you're going to try to pull to the higher range. If you got an offer for 92,000, that would be phenomenal out of this negotiation. The employers don't necessarily go directly to that lowest number, but that gives them an idea of what you think your worth is, which is important. Okay. So obviously, again, email that recruiter to arrange a time for discussion, and then you can talk about things. Alrighty. So let's move on here. So one of the things that you want to look at when you are looking at the negotiation work is that you want to consider the total compensation package. Okay, everything that you're going to get. So that's health insurance, that's medical, that's dental, that's vision, all of that information you can negotiate with. Sometimes the compensation package will include profit sharing or retirement programs. However, if the company is going to pay you just in like stock options, that's a negative. Don't do that. Make sure that you come and talk to us if you get any type of offer. I know that only because we had a student come to us that said they want to pay me through stock options, not actual cash right now. I was like, no, that's not a good thing. Okay. So obviously, you're going to think about if there are professional development opportunities, what are those? Do they do tuition reimbursement? So if you're going to get a master's degree, or if you're going to get a higher degree than that, do they reimburse you for that tuition? You can look at what your schedule is like, so you can know that maybe you can look at flex time or vacation or negotiate those things, but look at the whole package. Do they give you a cell phone? Do they give you a car allowance? If you're going to be driving in from a distance away, what is that? Because all of that you can negotiate, but you need to look at the whole package as a complete unit. Okay. So obviously realistic next steps, you want to make sure that you are developing a budget. So what that means is you need to take, especially if you're a new grad, you're graduating now, you need to look at what your budget is going to be. So, where will you live? Do you have a car? Do you make car payments? Do you have student loans? Are you going to have to be making payments on those student loans, 3 to 4 or 5 months after graduation? When do those kick in? So you need to take a look at that. Hold please. Can you see me still? My camera just went off. Can you see my camera?
Nope. Why don't you go ahead and start your video again?
Okay. Oh my gosh. What is happening? I have a gremlin in my computer, I swear. I'm so sorry. I apologize. Um, Let me see. Hold on. Oh my gosh. Where did it go? It just went away again. Oh Lord.
We're so sorry, everybody. Zoom is not our friend today.
Not today. It just totally took everything out. Realistic next steps. Come on. Let's go. Oh my goodness. This has never happened in the whole year and a half that we've been off, or what, a year and a month? I'm so sorry. All right, so getting back to the realistic next steps, when we're talking about building your budget when you graduate, you've got to look at any options that you think might be a possibility. Typically, where you're going to live, what's your rent. So get a budget together so you know exactly how much money you need. Technically, what I tell students is, you try to think about all the payments for the month and then total those up and times it by 12. So for example, if you, maybe you're still going to live at home, so you won't have any rent right now. So you don't need to consider that. However, obviously you're not going to live at home forever. So you want to kind of put in a money for what you think rent's going to be where you want to live. And then you total that up and multiply it. So maybe your monthly outgoing money is $3,000. So that's your bills, that's what you have to pay. So then obviously you're going to times that by 12, so you're going to get $36,000. So clearly, a $40,000 job's not going to cut it for you, or a $45,000 salary job is not going to cut it for you because you only have $9,000 for the year out of what you're going to make. So that's why it's really important to look at what your budget is. Now, the caveat I have at the bottom is these are things that you are never going to share with an employer, ever. You're not going to say things like, oh, but I went to USC, I have student loans. That's not their deal. It's yours. So you need to think about, what are all these things going to be? How much are they going to cost me? And so then you can negotiate accordingly. Okay. The other thing, I have this little, the photo here about, if you don't know your own worth and value, don't expect someone else to calculate it for you. You're going into work, it's a business. They need revenue in order to pay your salary. So they need to make sure that they are working on their end to bring in that revenue to pay you a salary. So they're not going to say like, oh, well, you're a recent grad and you went to USC and there's a lot of tuition and you did this and you did that and you have to drive in. So let's give you this. No, they have a salary hiring budget for that position, because it got approved at that. So you want to make sure that you know that in the back of your mind. They would not be offering this job if they did not have a budget to pay you. All right. If I was the queen, I would tell you that I would make sure that every job had the salary range on it, but unfortunately many jobs don't. So you have to do your research to figure out what that's going to be. Okay. All right, so let's move up to here to understanding the limits regarding your negotiation. So when you go into your negotiation, you're going to be thinking about, what do I need versus what I want? Obviously, we'd all love to have, $125,000 a year salary when we graduate from USC. Unfortunately, unless you're a petrochemical engineer, that's not going to happen. So you need to think about, what do you need to survive versus what you want? Okay. Now, obviously, you're not going to go bare bones with this, but you need to think about, what do I truly need monetarily to survive? So that considers what you need minimally. What do you need, the minimum amount of money that you can live on? So maybe that's $65,000 a year, based upon all the things that we discussed in the budget. You're going to look at that. And then what's the maximum you can ask for? What are other people in similar positions being paid? What are they getting? How am I going to work with that? And then the employer is thinking about, obviously, yes, what is the least that we can offer completely? That's totally what's happening. They always want to go least because it saves money. So what you want to do is look at their prerogatives. What are they taking in, so that you have an idea about what's going on with that. Okay. So maximum they're going to give, they're thinking about that. And then, what is your worth as an employee? You're probably not going to stay entry level for long. And most students don't want to be entry level for their whole career. Obviously, who would want to do that? So they're thinking about what are you going to be able to give to the company. They hired you because they like what they see, you're a good cultural fit for them, you work within their organization, and now they think you can do great things for them, and that's why they're hiring you. But they're also thinking about where you're going to move throughout the organization. So what is your benefit to that company? So you kind of want, with this Venn diagram, you kind of want to be in the middle here. This is what I call the voluntary exchange zone, where you guys are saying, yeah, this is good, this works for me, yeah, this would be nice, could I have this, what about this? That's what's happening in this zone in the middle here. Okay, because you're going to have to work with these people. So when you're negotiating, you need to make sure that you are still amicable and friendly, and that you're not getting angry within this negotiation process. All right. All right, so let's look at some strategies here. So obviously, we talked about knowing salary. That means looking at your cell phone allocation. Can you do flex scheduling? You know, what other things can they potentially give you that would be okay for you? Don't underestimate the importance of likability. You've got to be liked. Obviously, they like you, they're hiring you, but sometimes in the negotiation process, some students get angry because the company says no or something like this. Obviously, you know, the first thing that you're going to ask them when you're talking with them is, you know, basically is there any movement in the salary? That's how you ask about more money. You don't say, oh, I'd like more money. You ask them if there's any movement in the salary. And so you're either going to get a yes, there's movement. How much are you looking at a movement? Or you're going to get a no. And if there's a no, then that means that there's no movement in the salary. So then you're going to move on to, you know, what about any, you know, company benefits or cell phone allocations, or, you know, perhaps if you're working downtown in LA and you have to drive in, you know, maybe you can negotiate for them paying for part of the parking that you have to pay in downtown LA, because it does rack up to be quite expensive. So, you know, how is that going to be? Or if you're going to take public transportation, do they pay for the Metro Pass, or do they pay for a train pass or something like that? So those are the things that you want to go outside of the salary, but it's important that they're liking you so that they're able to give you that, right? So you'll have to make sure that you come at it from, again, what the employer's viewpoint is. It's not all about you. They're thinking, what am I going to be able to do? Where, you know, how much money am I going to be able to either go up on this salary, or am I going to be able to go up? So know that they're just not willy-nilly saying no, that they can't do it. They may not have the ability to give you what you need. All right. So you want to actively listen, make sure that you are definitely paying attention, because most of this is going to happen, most likely for most of you, over the phone. So you need to make sure that you're taking notes, or, you know, you could try a Zoom, but for me, I would tell you that your first negotiation is much easier when you're doing it over the phone and you don't actually have to look at the person, because that way you can look at notes, you can look at anything that you need that's in front of you until you get more comfortable with that negotiation process. And then again, just be patient, because these things may take more than a 5-minute conversation with a recruiter or with the interviewer, or maybe with the hiring manager. It depends on where they send you to do that negotiation. Okay, so you always want to just think about what's the best for me, what's the best for the company, and how can we get to that place in a mutual beneficial relationship is what you're looking at. Okay, so these are some of the things that you never ever want to do while you negotiate. Okay, you never want to let your ego do the talking. You never want to give ultimatums to individuals. You never want to share information about your financial needs. Okay, so you know, if there's if there's something in your family where there's some health issues and you need to get another job, or you need to get a higher salary in order to pay for those, you never want to bring that up to the company. I know a lot of students have said things like, well, you know, I'm a student at USC and I have a large student loan obligation to pay back, and the employers, that's not their responsibility. You know, they're just going to probably say, you know, that's unfortunate, but we're not able to, you know, give you X amount of dollars in order to pay for your tuition. You know, so be aware of some of those things. And then do not be unreasonable in your request for what you want. So you want to be thinking about, you know, again, what is my worth? Where am I going? What can the company give me, so that you are able to give them a little bit more room in order for them to be able to give you what you need. So you've got to do your research, you've got to practice, and you have to be professional. Okay. Those are the big three. You're not the Godfather. That's why I love that photo. Nobody does what you want when you say it, because technically you're coming in as an entry-level person, and we just make sure are able to jobs, right? You always want to negotiate whenever you are moving, even in an internship. If you've interned for a couple of summers and now you're graduating, you still have that internship experience. It's not going to be as identical to if you were working in a job in a corporation for 2 years and then you moved on, but it will still give you a little bit more ability to talk about it, because you could say, well, I did this and this and this in these roles, and so I'm looking for this. Okay. The other thing that I would tell you to do too as well is be ready for them to, obviously be ready for them to say no to everything that you ask for, just because sometimes that's how it works. So one of the things that you want to be able to talk about is say, well, could we reopen this in about 6 months after I've worked, so I can, show you all the great things that I've done for the company. And they may say yes, or maybe they'll say 9 months, however long the duration is. But you want to make sure that they're open to revisiting this. And then when you start your new job, you always want to make sure that you have a notebook or something on your phone where you can write down all of the things that you have done that have helped that organization. For example, if you are working in maybe supply chain and you are looking at supplies, and maybe it's office, you're ordering office supplies, and you found that there is a cheaper vendor, or there is a way that you can order in mass quantities and you get a bigger discount, so you've saved the company, maybe you save the company $10,000 in office supplies in the short time that you are working in that position. That would be something that you would write down. So when you go to talk about maybe getting a raise, or trying to ask for more money, that you can say, these are the things I've done, because you know that your boss is going to say to you, well, what have you done where I should give you this money? What things have you done? And a lot of students say, oh, I'll remember that, and then you don't remember, and so there's nothing that you can back up that money ask, because there's nothing there. So you could say, oh, well, I saved the company over $10,000 in this last quarter in office supplies, or I found a different vendor for, the water that comes in every month or every week. And so these are the things that I've done that have raised, and saved the company revenue. So, I would love to get, 50 cents an hour raise, or I'd love to get this. And that's how you do that conversation. That's how you start to have that conversation about what we're doing, how we're doing it. And hopefully they would be able to open the purse strings a little bit and give you that increase in your salary. Okay. So any questions on any of this before we talk a little bit about some of the websites? Okay. So these are some of the negotiation related websites that I would recommend that you look at. PayScale is a great website. So is Glassdoor. The BLS by far is probably the strongest website that you can look at. However, the BLS is very confusing when you get into it. It's very difficult to locate the information, but it's a fabulous website. So if you can get in and actually figure out how to manipulate and move from page to page within the BLS, it's going to be fine. There's also CV Salary, that's the Career Builder Salary.com indicator, which is also a calculation tool by region or state. So you can look for different things. And then obviously there's salary.com. That's a great place to look for salary as well. There is another website called careeronestop.org. It's not on here, but it's Career One Stop, and you can go to Career One Stop, and actually it's similar to CV Salary, but you can actually look at the zip codes that you're going to be working in and what those typical salary ranges are for that particular job. So you would have to definitely type in the title that you're going to be having, or the title that you're looking to apply to. When you start applying to these jobs, you also want to look at, I would go to Career One Stop immediately to see what people are being paid in those positions before you even start the interview process, just so that you know. But what you can do is it'll give you the low 10%, it'll give you the mean, and it will also give you the high 10%. So you can take a look at what that is there. It has put in the Career One Stop link in the chat, so that's something that you can definitely go to and see that information. Okay. All right. So when you're thinking about the whole negotiation process, one of the things that we need to look at is, we know that it's scary. As someone that used to do recruiting, We know that recruiters know that it is very difficult to ask for salary, especially as a new grad or especially as an intern, someone who's currently in school. We know that that is difficult. So we want you to come in and make sure that you are articulate when you talk to us. So again, remembering that anything is negotiable, right? You want to talk about anything you need to talk about, you can do that, but you need to most definitely do the homework within that negotiation. So you want to talk to people. If you can, one of the things that I would suggest to you is as you're looking at different industries to go into or different types of jobs, I would definitely utilize the Trojan Network, which is on Connect SC. And I would also look at LinkedIn, especially the USC LinkedIn portal, um, to talk to people that are doing what you are looking to do, to find out more information about what that job entails. And that's things that you should be doing actually, in the interview process, before the interview process, to find out if that's something that you want to do. And this is the time where you would ask someone at that organization, what is, do you have any idea about what the general entry level salary is for someone in this position? You never want to ask, what do you make? Right? But you want to ask, do you know what the entry level position is? And they may say, oh, well, when I was hired 3 years ago, I was offered, 51. And so you have an idea, okay, 3 years ago, they offered 51. Now, understand that with the pandemic that's happened, a lot of industries have lost some revenue. So you need to think about that, but not to the point of, saying to yourself, oh, I'm not going to negotiate because maybe they lost a lot of revenue in the pandemic. No, you still need to negotiate for what you believe is the true salary that you should be getting based upon the research and the people that you've talked to in the industry to get an idea about what that is. So that's why we talk about do your homework. So that's part of it. Always make sure that you are looking at the entire package. Okay. Don't overlook health benefits. If the salary is on the lower side, but they are paying for your health benefits, that's amazing, because health benefits are one of the most expensive areas that employers have to pay for. It just is, because usually the employers pay for 80% of your medical, and you are paying for 20% in your salary. That's how it most likely works. Sometimes it's 70-30, but that's that health benefit, that the health, medical, dental, vision, that whole benefit package is very expensive for the employer. So if they are covering that, that's great. Okay, obviously some of you could be covered, I believe, through your parents' insurance until you're 26, but then once you fall off of that, then you need to look at everything. So you need to talk about that. You always need to know the bottom line, what your need versus your want is, so that you have a figure to go from, so you know exactly what's happening. Okay, usually within the negotiation process, there is some give and take. However, again, if the company says no, we're not negotiating, that's what it's going to be. There's no negotiation. For example, for any of you that are going to be working for the Big Four accounting firms, just know that there is usually no negotiation process, right? They all pay the same. So they talk to each other, just so you know that. A lot of people in the same industries will converse with each other about what they're offering, what they're paying. So you need to take a look at those things. When you're thinking about that, though, you still need to make the offer, even though they're going to say probably no. Unfortunately, there's no movement in the salary. And you're like, oh, okay, then you move on. Okay, so I see another question in the chat. Let's look at Sophia's. It says, what did you say is appropriate time to bring up the possibility of a raise? Usually, Sophia, I would say probably, usually it's 6 months into the job. Most companies use like a 90-day introductory period. So that just is to make sure that, in fact, you are a good fit for the organization. Because as a recent alum, when you go to look for work, sometimes everything looks great, and so you accept the offer, but once you get into the job a little bit, maybe you would realize that you don't fit with the organizational culture, or this is not the type of thing that you envisioned, or it's different than what the job description said. So you want to wait to make sure that you're actually going to stay at that organization, and so that's usually be a 6-month window, because usually in the first 3 months, that's when you are figuring things out and then moving on from there. So usually it's about 6 to 9 months. Some people I know will do it around the time that they get their performance appraisal. Typically every year you will get some type of performance appraisal, and that will allow you to, talk about what you did and how great you did it. But usually the performance appraisal is not the right time to talk about a raise. Usually you can do that after the performance appraisal, okay, or before the performance appraisal. You don't want to do it at that same time. We just don't do that. And then Lauren Lee asks, if the employer covers health benefits, how much less would the offer be? It shouldn't be it shouldn't be, like $10,000 less. Definitely no. But maybe it's $2,000 or $3,000 less, maybe, than what they're doing in the industry. But typically, most of the companies, just so you know, will budget for this particular job. So they know going into the interview that they have budgeted a certain amount of money. I do know that I was working with a graduate student getting their doctorate, and they were in an interview and they asked the salary range, and that person's response was, well, why don't we start by talking about what the salary range that was budgeted for this position is? And I just was like, oh, that's a little sassy. I don't know if I would go that route, but this person felt confident in what they were doing. And so that's the tack that they took. I would never try to be that upfront when talking about money, but they do have a budget for what they pay. It has to go through a committee. It's not, they don't just say, oh, we're going to hire someone, let's do this. There is a process in the compensation area of that corporation or that organization to make sure that they, in fact, do have that money so that they can pay your salary. So there is some room there, but they're never going to tell you what that room is. So if you go to the low end of that range, and when they ask you, what are you looking at as salary, they're going to say, you know what, we could totally do $40,000. Not a problem, because they know they have up to 60,000. The student was minimally successful. So they said, well, you know what, we need to talk about what you think you deserve. I'm not going to tell you what the budget is. That's not happening. So it got a little bit heated, just slightly, a little bit. So that's why I would not kind of think that would be the greatest way to answer or to ask a question. Usually it's your range. So that's why I would look at, again, Career One Stop to give you an idea of what's happening in that area. What's going on with the industry right now. Obviously, as you search for work, most of the positions, most companies are still hiring at the same salary range that they hired pre-pandemic. So it's not necessarily, oh, because of the pandemic, they're going to offer lower salaries. There may be organizations that might have to do that, but that's why you're looking at your Career One Stop to get an idea. And that's why you're talking to people in that industry, obviously. If you're trying to get into entertainment right now, or you're trying to negotiate, or you do have a job in entertainment, I really don't know how much flexibility they're going to have with your salary, only because of what's happened within the past year. So don't think that, oh, I got this great job with this great entertainment company, so they can pay me a lot of money, because that they are coming back from what's happened in the last year. So just be aware of some of those things. You're human, the recruiter is human. So you just want to have a conversation with them. That's what it's about. So you have to be comfortable looking at that information and bringing that up. Nobody likes to discuss money. I mean, I've been working for many, many years, and I don't like to discuss money either. It's just something that I've gotten comfortable with it over the years, because I've had couple of different positions and things of that nature. So not that you're going to leave your job right away, but once you have been in a job for a while, maybe 2-3 years, and you move into a different industry or a different job, you're always wanting to look for, at least a 5% increase to your salary than what you made at that previous company. So, that's kind of a little measuring stick of where you want to try to be, because obviously you want to continue to increase your salary as you continue to work, as you continue to go through life, so that when you get ready to stop working and retire, you're able to do that. And just a thing on that note, if the companies have any of any 401ks or things of that nature within the benefits package of the company, you do want to make sure that if you can, when you start working, that you take advantage of that. So for example, if the company is going to match your match the payment that you are making into your 401k, if they match up to the first 3%, then you can put in 3%, and so you'll get a 6% movement into your retirement account. If they match 6% and you can do 6%, put all that in there so that you are continuing to build into retirement account from the age of, maybe 22, 23. So then you will have the money that you need in retirement. Don't wait until you're 30 to start your retirement accounts thinking, oh, I can do that later. You want to do it as soon as possible. And sometimes I know that students have negotiated for a little bit more money so that they can put more money. That's something else that you can think about as well. Okay. All right. So any questions over any of this? Why is this so blurry? Okay. All righty, Sophia, great. In fact, I would probably tell you that you will most likely start your job if you're graduating in May and you have a job and you have the offer. You will probably start that remotely, and then eventually they will transition you into the office. Depending upon what they're doing, you could definitely negotiate. That's the flexibility in the work schedule, the flex schedule and those hours. So you can definitely, schedule and say, hey, would it be possible to me for me to work from home, one day a week, if that's everybody's in the office. Okay. The pandemic really hasn't affected a lot of salary negotiations. Students are still doing it. Some employers are actually, raising that salary a little bit because it's expected. Everybody that works in HR is expects you to negotiate for your money. And the other thing too, and I'm just going to throw this in, is there's a lot of women that do not negotiate. So as a female, you want to make sure that you are negotiating for more money, right? So you always want to ask, because your male counterparts are doing the same thing. So everybody, no matter gender, no matter age, no matter anything, you still need to negotiate every time you have a job offer. Every time you're talking about working or every time you're interviewing, that that's going to come up. So you have to get comfortable with that. So I think that you probably still would be able to negotiate with remote work, definitely. And that might be something that might continue even after the pandemic. There's a lot of marketing positions and a lot of companies that are allowing their employees to permanently work from home if that's something that they choose to do. So that is also another option for you as well. All right. So any other questions about the negotiation process? I had something else and it left me.
Ask away. Denise is great.
I will try to give you any information that I can. There was something I was going to talk about. Oh, when you are asking the person for movement. So when you get the offer letter from the organization, it's usually signed by either somebody in HR or somebody in the department, or it could be even the boss, your supervisor that you're going to work for. Whoever signs that letter, that's who you want to reach out to ask about answering questions. So that's the person that you want to do that. Now, if a recruiter says, if it's like the president of the company that signs that, you're not going to talk to the president about money. You're going to talk to either the recruiter or the person that interviewed you. But if that person is on the letter, that's who you're going to email to ask for some time to talk. And usually you want to ask for questions. You don't want to hit them directly with the salary question. You want to ask a couple of questions, maybe about benefits, maybe about matching 401k or something else. And then usually the last question you ask, any movement there, and that's it. And then you have to be okay with silence. Okay. Just like in the interview process, you have to be okay with asking your question and then waiting for their reaction. In the interview process, same thing. Once you're done answering your question, you're silent. A lot of students don't stay silent, and then they start answering more and giving more information to the recruiter. Once you get that information, or once you've asked your question, they need to think about it, and then they will respond. So sometimes they will say, you know what, yeah, we can move the salary a little bit. I would be able to give you, as a recruiter, I would be able to give you probably $1,500 more. If you want more than that, then you'll need to talk to your hiring manager. And so you go, okay, yeah, I'd like to talk to the hiring manager. So how do we get that process started? And that's how you do that. The other thing is that in our mock interview module called Big Interview, there is a module around negotiation. So they will give you scenarios, they will give you opportunities to kind of practice negotiating and give you some more strategies with that. Because if you wanted to talk about negotiation with us in the Career Center, you would make an appointment and we would try to help you, ask your question. But the reality is the question is just, is there movement? We don't do like mock negotiations in the Career Center, but you can do that through Big Interview and they will give you all of that information. The thing is this, don't be upset or don't get disappointed if for some great deal. Okay, so Big Interview is going to be a great tool for that, only because it's a module that was written by actual recruiting professionals, and so they'll give you all that information. So here are some more links that you can utilize for information about interviewing as well as evaluating and negotiating your offer. You need to look at all of the perks that come into your job rather than just the salary. I know that right now for many of you, and I remember when I was graduating from college, that it was all about the salary. You're making no money forever, and now you have a salary and you want to get the most you can. So we understand that. But what you want to look at is the complete and total compensation package and the offer. Is this a company you want to work for? Is there going to be movement? You know that you're not going to stay entry level forever. At least I would hope that as a USC student, as a Trojan, you would not want to be an entry level employee forever. So you do want to make sure that you are looking at things and you are comfortable with where you're going. So what you want to do is look at the overview of the company, the offer that you're getting, the team that you're going to be on. Most employers are not going to try to shortchange you out of salary. The majority of employers that hire USC students don't do that. You went to a prestigious university. They know that you're brilliant. They know that you're going to do great things for them. And so they're not going to try to give you $30,000 a year. Okay. Unless it's a startup. Okay, because startups don't have money. So if you're looking at a startup, just be aware of that. You're probably not going to make $60,000 at a startup just because they don't have that kind of revenue stream yet. So be aware of some of those things. Okay. Any other questions? We've got some time. If you have any other questions about negotiating or anything around the process right now. No questions in the chat for me? Okay, questions about anything? Let's see here. Okay, so one of the things I do want to make sure that you utilize too moving forward is you will have access to the USC Career Center's website for life. As a student, you can access everything now. As an alum, once you become an alum, you can go ahead and register as an alumni for an alumni account in Connect SC, and then you'll be able to continue through looking at things and participating in things as an alum. The Financial Literacy Committee, including Manjari, have done a great job of getting information for you regarding financial literacy. So on our website, we do have a financial literacy tab. So you want to make sure that you're looking at that so you're aware of the changes that are going to happen in terms of money, because if you worked as an intern and you were paid, probably taken over your paycheck, but this will give you some idea of what kind of taxes you're going to be that will be removed from your paycheck. So, even if you're going to make $60,000 a year, you're not going to get that $60,000 due to obviously all the taxes that come out for payroll and Social Security and medical and all these other things that you will find out. So that information is there for you so that you can be more knowledgeable about the next step for you. So what's going to happen once I graduate, when I get that first paycheck. So please be aware of those things. We have lots and lots of resources for you on the website. So you really want to make sure that you are taking advantage of those while you're a USC student and especially as an alumni. Okay. So any other questions about negotiation or anything like that regarding the financial literacy package or the conference or any of that? Nothing?
No, it doesn't look like there are any.
Okay. Thank you guys. I appreciate you hanging with me through our little financial difficulties and our or my bad internet connection. But I appreciate you being here and listening. And please know that if you do have questions, you can reach out to us. I mean, that's why we're here. Okay, so if you need some assistance, please make sure that you either come to our drop-in hours from 12 to 3, Monday through Friday, or that you book an appointment online through Connect SC. You can also utilize your school-based career centers as well. They may give you different information regarding some of the questions you might have. So you want to make sure that you're definitely using both career centers. If your school does have their own, you want to make sure that you're availing yourself of their services as well. That's it. Thank you so much. Oh wait, I got a question. I think. Is there a question? International jobs. One of the things that you want to make sure that you're doing is that you are looking at what that compensation package is and what that position is paid in that different country, because obviously countries run on different environments. There's different financial situations. So the negotiation actually is the same, but you would want to do research on working in, Australia or China or France or, even, Canada, all of that stuff. You would need to look at what those salary ramifications are. And you can do that in any of the salary websites. They will help you with that. But also if you can find someone that works at a company that you're looking at internationally, you're going to ask that question. Okay. Negotiating strategies different depending on culture. I would tell you no. Negotiation is negotiation. All right. I know that some cultures are different in terms of the respect that they are giving to one another, but the negotiation process is still the same. So, you might be silent a little longer. You may not ask for as many things as you need, but it would go with that corporate identity that you're going to be working in. So I would tell you that negotiation strategies are going to be the same, but the tenant underneath them, or, maybe, like in a company where, like probably like a gaming company, if you're going to be like a tester in a gaming company, there probably won't be a lot of room in terms of like a flexible schedule, because usually game testers work lots and lots of hours. And, you might be able to work from home testing maybe, but, you probably would not be able to negotiate a flexible schedule in terms of, oh, well, could I work 9 to 6? Because you're probably going to be working like 9 to 9 if you're a tester, depending upon deadlines and things like that too. So you want to take a look at just making sure you understand the culture of the organization, but the negotiation strategies usually do not change. Nope.
Yeah. Awesome.
Any other questions? Last minute questions? Anything?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording here.
Okay.